So today's presentation is going to be on for those students that are coming in looking at the 3 courses of Games Development Art, Games Development Design and Games Development Production. And we'll go over in depth about what the differences between those three courses are and what's the differences between them. As we said, my name is Matthew Novak. I'm the course leader on Games Development Art course, and we have Dr. Duke Gledhill, who's the course leader on the Game Development Production. And we're both going to be here today to try and answer as many questions as you have about coming to university, and in particular Huddersfield and games. So why would you study games in the first place? Why would you want to study games? So games is very exciting. For a lot of us, it's our hobby. It's the thing that we enjoy the most. Diving deep into a game and getting lost in that world, or getting lost in its mechanics, or being enthralled by its characters, whatever it might be, is that we all like games for different reasons. And wanting to take that passion and bring it into a career is something really that a lot of people want to do, and it's really exciting when you can do that. So what are some of the things that we need to make sure that we have in when we're studying games? And that one of them is to learn both the practical and the theoretical. So a lot of you might be studying games at college, or you might be and within that course you might be doing a lot of practical stuff, so learning 3D, say, so like learning 3ds Max or learning Maya, or you might be learning a game engine like Unreal. And that's great, and we'll continue to do a lot of that practical learning. But to underpin that learning, we need the theoretical. We need to understand why it is that we're doing a particular thing, not just how you build it, but why you build it in the first place. So for instance, we've got a little image from Kyle, which is of a character, and that theoretical underpinning of character design is things like anatomy and proportions and design, shape, language. So if we have that theoretical underpinning, we can apply that practically in lots of different styles and processes. So that's one of the things that's really exciting about games, is that when we build games, we're building it for lots of different audiences, so we need to know how to build things in the right way. As we're learning to study games and game development, we need to have industry relevant skills at the back end of it. By the time you graduate, you need to be able to get a job within the industry, and you need to have the right skill set that industry is looking for. So that's one of the things that you'll hear throughout this presentation, that we focus quite heavily on industry support and industry input onto the course. We also try and make sure that you work with all disciplines, so whether it's art, whether it's design, whether it's production, that you have a clear understanding of the entire pipeline, because it's all well and good being a character artist and building very pretty characters, but how does that fit in with an animator? What does an animator need from you to be able to work correctly, and what does the person putting it into the game engine and the programmers need from you to be able to actually work in the right way? And that kind of comes quite nicely into the entire production process, is that you'll work through game jams and team projects with programmers, you'll work with designers, you'll work with artists, you'll have a whole host. You'll get to understand how each of the different skill sets intertwine to be able to build a game from the ground up. And then transferable skills. It's always said that the best programmers in the world are games programmers, because they need to be able to make things that not only work but run at really optimized speed. So any PC gamers out there, we want it at 4K at 60 frames per second, or even higher in some cases. So and the same goes for artists. Games artists tend to be the best artists in the world, because they have to be able to work to optimize processes, and they have to be able to make sure that the visual aesthetic comes across in that game. So if you're interested in studying games, here at Huddersfield we are looking for 120 UCAS points. So that's the equivalent, if you're at A level, of BBB, or if you're at BTEC, that's the equivalent of DMM. Or if you're something like a UAL, make sure that it's the equivalent of 120 UCAS points. We also ask for GCSE English and Maths at grade 4 or above, so this is to make sure that you're going to be okay on the course, because there's game development, even if you're going as an artist, it can be quite technical, so making sure that you can be okay with that technical side of things, and then the writing of reports, your dissertation, the academic theory, making sure that you can be okay with that. So as long as you meet those requirements, we're good to go. If you're in a position where you want to try and top up your UCAS points, so we do accept a couple of UCAS schemes. So if you want to look at the progression module, this allows a student to access an extra 12 UCAS points, or we also have the Head Start Huddersfield scheme, which allows you to access an extra 8 UCAS points. There is a link at the bottom of this slide which gives you a little bit more information about all those schemes. So if you're looking to top up UCAS points, it might be worth having a quick look at these. So why choose Huddersfield over any other university? As you have no doubt seen looking at games courses through UCAS, is there are a lot of games courses in the country, and all of them on paper offer very similar things. So what we want to do is we want to delve a little bit deeper past that initial research to sort of say, why would you choose Huddersfield over anywhere else? And we've kind of split this up into 4 key areas that we're going to talk about in this presentation. The first is teaching excellence, which we're very proud of. Our lecturers here and what they've done from both a university standpoint, but also an industry recognised standpoint as well. We're going to talk a little bit about our placement year with some dedicated support. So we have our placement unit, which has a dedicated team, and their entire role is sort of supporting you through trying to acquire a placement. So helping you write a CV, giving you mock interviews, all whilst trying to support you through that process. So in our placement year, in that 3rd year, we encourage as many students to try and take a placement as possible, because it gives you that industrial experience that a lot of studios want to see. We also have our own in-house game studio called Gnarsize Studios, which we'll talk a lot about later on, but it's one of the things that makes Huddersfield a little bit unique. And we also try and make our facilities as professional as we possibly can. So that's everything from hardware to software to access to equipment and access to buildings. So we make sure that they are at the top end of any sort of gaming spec machines. In terms of software, we're going to make sure that you have industry standard software, so you have access to all of the standard tools. So whether you're coming in fresh, never touched a piece of 3D software, you'll have access to 3ds Max, Maya, Blender, whatever it might be. But in terms of, we get asked this question a lot, of what software do we use? Are we Max or are we Maya? The answer is we're our software agnostic, is that we don't really have, we don't dictate what software we use. In terms of teaching though, we are 3ds Max. So myself, my colleagues Daryl and Ashley and some of the others, they are Max users, so a lot of the examples and the process that we show will be in 3ds Max, but if you want to use Blender or Maya or whatever other tools, Silo, Rhino, there are a lot of 3D packages out there and other things, is that you may use those, as we don't really teach software, we teach process. And the same goes for other pieces of software. If it's industry standard, we try and incorporate it into the teaching. So we're currently incorporating things like Substance and ZBrush, and looking at other technical processes as well. As we're saying, one of the first points there is teaching excellence. The university itself has the TEF Gold Award, which is Teaching Excellence Framework. And this is the way I like to think of this is, if you remember the Nintendo Gold Seal of Approval on the N64 and the SNES days, is that this is almost like the equivalent of that, is that the university has got the stamp to say that teaching comes first for the Huddersfield staff. We can also then go a little bit deeper, and we can say, what's the recognition from industry itself? So we have our Grads in Games Awards, and this is an industry recognized award that has Academic of the Year. And in 2018, my colleague Dr. Daryl Marples won it, and last year, in 2019, I was won it. And it's sort of a recognition from industry that we're pushing our students with industry relevant skills, and it's great to see that teaching standard is part and parcel of the DNA of Huddersfield. This is a slide that we use to sort of demonstrate to parents more than anything, because usually students, potential students, they know the industry. They read up on Gamasutra and Kotaku and all these other places about the industry. It's a worldwide industry, but if there's any potential parents out there, or students want to show this to parents if they're questioning whether games is the right choice, there's a couple of sites, gamesmap.uk and gamedevmap.com, which actually show all of the different game studios around the world and how densely populated they are. As we said, that the games industry is worldwide, and it's ever growing. It used to be several years ago the way that people used to talk about the games industry was that it brings in more revenue than the movie industry and the music industry combined. Well, that's no longer true. It's now the music industry, the movie industry, and the American sports industry combined. Games is massive, and it's just getting bigger each year. And with the growth comes the need for more developers to actually sustain that growth. So it's a great industry to try and get into. Bringing it a little more local though, towards Huddersfield and Yorkshire, there is a thing called Gamio, which we are part of, which stands for Game Makers of Yorkshire. And that's in collaboration with Games Republic, which is a professional networking body. And as this is directly quote from their website, which is that Games Republic is the largest professional industry-led games business network outside of London. And it encompasses a lot of different studios, from Rockstar to Sumo Digital to Revolution, etc., that come together multiple times a year, either through Games Republic for more official sort of conference-based gatherings, or more social-based gatherings through Gamio. And it's great to come together and talk to the industry, get some acknowledgement about what the current trends are, what the industry are looking for from a graduate, and the staff at Huddersfield. We constantly try and keep on top of keeping in touch with industry as much as possible. We're going to go into talking about the 3 different courses that we have at Huddersfield, and what the differences are, but all 3 of them sort of share the same DNA of wanting to make sure that you get the most out of the courses, that the industry focus has been put directly into them. So as you go through the 3 years, you're going to start your first year off with learning as many different skill sets as you possibly can, and then you're going to go into second year and you're going to hone your specific skill, and then you're going to go into final year where you're going to try and demonstrate that you're industry ready. And it allows you to plan an idea and go all the way through that development process to creation, so you have something that can demonstrate that skill set at the back end. We run regular game jams, so anyone that doesn't know what a game jam is, it's where a small team over a very short period of time come together and try and build a game from start to finish. So the way that we run our game jams at Huddersfield is that in the team project modules, we'll put teams together with programmers, artists, designers, and they'll come together Monday morning 9 o'clock, and by Friday at 5 p.m. They'll have built a game from scratch. And it's a really exciting process to actually see your game being played, it working in such a short period of time. We also run a guest lecture series that changes every year, but depending on which industry vets we can get in to come and talk to our students. But we also want that connection, that networking to be throughout. So by the time we get to the end of final year, we run our end of year showcase, which is where we invite industry to come and look at the work that final years have produced. And that's an ongoing networking event that we put on. We also encourage our students, which we'll talk a little bit more later on, to enter as many competitions as possible, from Grads and Games to Game Republic Student Showcase. And we've got a couple of slides on that later. In the top right, you can see we've got these screen skills, and this is an accreditation body that looks at games courses or media courses to make sure that the graduates are being taught the right thing to be work ready. And all of our games courses have this Screen Skills Tick award, so it's something to look out for. So in terms of the 3 courses, we have Game Development Art, Game Development Design, and Game Development Production. What are the 3 differences? The art program. So artists are the easiest one to sort of identify. It's the easiest one to visually show off. But if you're an artist, you kind of know it because you enjoy drawing, you enjoy looking at the visual side of games. So let's say you're playing Last of Us, you're going to spend a huge amount of the time looking at the foliage, looking at the environment, looking at the models and the textures and admiring them. You might be the type of person that in something like Horizon Zero Dawn, you climb to the top of the mountain just to be able to look at the view and the sunset and see how the clouds roll across the sky and across the mountains. If you're that type of person, you kind of know that you want to go down the art route. That really excites you as the visual medium. And that can be from 3D to 2D or anything between. Can be part of that art route. The design course is for those people that like systems. They like to know what makes a game fun in the first place. Like, how do you build something that is actually fun to play or has a fair mechanic? So if you play things like XCOM or any type of strategy game like Final Fantasy Tactics or something like that, you want to know how does this power up overcome this other power up? Or if you're playing something like League of Legends, you'll know what the current meta play style is for that game. So a good example, it's quite difficult to show design in a visual medium, but we've got one here by Niall Crabtree, which is one of our second year students, that he enjoys building board games as well because it allows you to explore the game mechanics. You have to expose all of the rules of the game to the player so that they understand them. Like in a computer game, you can hide some of those systems behind the scenes, but in a board game, you've got to expose them all. So actually, they have to all make sense to the user. So a board game is a really good way of exploring game design and making that complex system that is going to be hopefully fun to play for the end user. Then we've got the production route. Now this is for those that are a little bit more techie. So let's not say the programmers. So we have games programmers, and they're the ones that are going to be building the systems, going to be building the game engine, going to be building the gameplay. And they're probably going to use a coding language like C++. Production is for those that are between an artist, a designer, and a programmer. There's someone that likes to build out things. So I'd like to refer to the production one as the builders. So we've got a couple of examples. So let's say Reese Kuby here from this image. He's just graduated from our final year, and he's going to be going as a VFX artist. So he wants to know how to make particles work and interact. So the example we got here is he built a system for engines, so ship engines, so spaceship engines. So you can actually, he's exposed a load of particle parameters to the artist, so they can change the color, they can change the size, they can change the way that the engine works and looks. So he's built, using visual scripting, a system that an artist can use to make something look how they want it to look. We've also got maybe like a level designer. A level designer is an interesting one because you've got level artists that want to make a level look as pretty as possible, but a level designer is going to build an environment that works. So they're going to make sure that things like, if you have climbable environment pieces, that it all interacts correctly, or if you've got ladders, that you can actually climb up those ladders, or if, let's say, you're building a first-person shooter like multiplayer game, is that you've got an environment that's going to naturally form corridors and combat zones so that natural conflicts occur, so that you can actually build that that gameplay through the environmental level design. So if you're a little bit more techie and you like that process of building, then maybe the production route. Now the way that we structure the course is in the first year, we're going to teach you basically a whole host of different things, give you exposure to as many different disciplines as we possibly can, because you might come in thinking you're an artist, but then once you get exposed to the more techie side of it, you realize you're a production student. So at the end of the first year, you do have the opportunity to transfer from one course to the other as you find your little niche. And that is part and parcel of the whole process. In first year, it's exposed you to the different disciplines. In second year, it's to develop the skill set in those disciplines. And then in final year, it's get to the industry standard level that you need. Try and find your little niche and demonstrate it to industry. So as a summary, it's practical and theoretical skills. It's as much input from industry as we can in building these courses. Learning support in terms of both academic, but also tutor drop-ins and things like that. We have an optional placement year that is supported by a placement team, and there is an opportunity to either go into Canal Side Studios or on our EPY program in a placement year, which we're going to talk about next. In between your second year and final year, you might go on a placement, and this can be a traditional placement, so you can work with the placement unit to apply for interns at game studios. So we've got some students this year at Sumo Digital and Rebellion, but you might be a little bit more entrepreneurial. So you might be the type of person that wants to make your own studio one day, and so EPY program is based in the Enterprise Hub, and it's supported by business mentors, and it gives you an opportunity to sort of test the waters and see whether you can actually build a studio and make it run successfully. So we've got a really nice example here from the last few years. One of them is Raf, who built a game called Yes Your Grace, and Yes Your Grace has a really nice story because he started it in his placement year. He and a programmer worked together, and in the final year they continued to develop it, but after final year that programmer decided he actually wanted to go off and work in a traditional studio. So Raf was left with the process of trying to continue to work this. So he pitched it to a couple of publishers, and a publisher took it on and helped him hire a team. And earlier this year he released Yes Your Grace. So if you want to go and look up that story, look up that game, you can go to braveatnight.co.uk and find out a little bit more about it. So I'll just show you a little trailer so you can get an idea about what Raf has been working on. So that was Raf's game, Yes Your Grace. And you can see it's a really nice achievement to actually building his own studio, and I'm pretty sure that he's now taking the successes of that and working on his next title. We also have Canal Side Studios, which is our own in-house studio, as I said, and it's a great opportunity for a small group of our students, so from programmers to designers and artists, to work on a commercial title, and this is a paid role. And we've had some great successes in the past, from Pocket Galaxy, which was an iOS and Android sort of clicker, to Flux 8, which is sort of like a platform puzzle game where you play the role of two little magnets, one called Tess, one called Newt, and you have to use your repel and retract powers to be able to navigate this environment. And that's on Steam and did really well and was part of the Yogcast Jingle Jam bundle last year, and actually a bit earlier last month was released on Nintendo Switch. So a really good opportunity to go and look at what some of our students have been working on. Last year they worked on a title called Lads, so Little Awesome Dude, which is a great title, which is in VR, because we always encourage our students as much as possible to explore new technologies, explore new techniques, and the VR title that they wanted to make was really quite interesting, because it was like a game within a game. So you start the game in your mum's basement, and you have to, it's sort of like a sandbox, sort of explore the world, the environment. You can play with some dart, you can play basketball, there's a little arcade machine in the corner. But as you explore, you find these little mini figurines, these little statues, and as you place them on a table, they come to life, and you can then give them orders to go collect resources, and the more resources you have, the more things you can build, and then you can send your little lads on adventures into dungeons and fight creatures, and it's a great little experience that showcases the technical achievement of working in VR. This year's team are working on a title called Mira's Tale, which is a little navigational platformer, we'll call it, where you have to traverse the environment with swinging and gliding. I'll just show the trailer to give you a nice idea about what they're working on. So that was Mira's Tale, which the current team in Canasta Studio are working on. Yeah, the team in there are working extremely hard to demonstrate what they are capable of. So this is a team that are in their placement year, so in between their second year and final year. These aren't even graduate level yet, and so they're working on trying to demonstrate that they understand how games are being built in the first place. And part of the cycle, part of the process of university is that at some point you might need some support. So we've got a whole host of support teams in place to actually help you through the course and through your time at Huddersfield. So anything from technicians that are there to help support with hardware and software, to we've got on the first floor of our building, which is the Spark Jones building, we've got our student support office and student guidance office, and both are there for supporting students. So the way I like to think about it is that the student support office is there for anything to do with the course, anything to do with the university in general, so processes, timetables, room allocation, things like that. And we have the student guidance team that are there for everything from academic writing support, how do you write with APA 6 referencing, all the way to mental health support and sort of getting yourself feeling comfortable at university. So that the team is there to help and support you if anyone needs it. I want to sort of spend the last sort of section of this presentation just looking at our students' work, because I think it's a really good indicator of not only us being proud of our students, but also our students demonstrating that they have gone through this program, they have gone through the years of learning from first year, trying to get to grips with all the different software tools and get to grips with all the different technical jargon that gets thrown at them very quickly, to learning how to use all of that skill to actually build something that demonstrates their expertise, demonstrates that they are passionate about building art, building games, building technologies. So as I said earlier, I'm going to start off by actually looking at some of the awards, because I think the awards sort of, again, not only showcase that our students are good and they build some really nice things, but industry is recognizing it, because a lot of these awards, especially the ones that they enter, are judged by industry. So we have the Game Republic Student Showcase Award, which happens every year, and this is for the north of England. All the universities put their students forward and the games that they've made, and industry from Rebellion to Rockstar to Red Kite Games and Sumo Digital all come and they judge the different students, the different games that have been made, and sort of say whether they are relevant in different categories. So this year, a team of our students, from programmers to artists and designers, you can see the names on the right there, made a game called Wibble Wobble Wobble, which is a great name to say over and over again. But they won first prize for Best Game Design and Best Team. We also had a team made up of artists and programmers that made a game called Regal Mortis, and that won second prize for Best Team, Best Technology and Best Audio. And a couple of our students, Kyle and Joe, also took the first and third prize for Best Art and Animation. And it's again, this is just an indication that our students are being recognised. So there's a little slide here that shows this particular competition, the Game Republic competition, that's been running since 2009 all the way up to 2020, and how each year more and more of those prizes are being awarded to Huddersfield students. So it's again a nice little recognition. There's also another competition that is run by Grads in Games, the Search for a Star, which is for final years, and the Rising Star, which is for second years, which has a couple of different categories from character to environment to VFX. And that's, again, you can see just by the finalists and the winners how many of those awards are being awarded to Huddersfield students. All of that is just to showcase that our students are awesome, and our students are actually being pushed in the right way to actually impress industry, and at the back end have that opportunity to get that graduate position. So I want to go through and showcase a couple of pieces of art here. This one was from Jack Walker, who wants to be a character artist, so he wanted to focus on character stylization and character sort of look and feel of hand-painted textures, so you can see the shapes, the dynamicism, the color theory of contrast and reflection being put into place here, all being hand-painted as well, which is part and parcel of the process. So you can really see that this character could just be dropped into a game right now, and that was kind of the process of making sure that it was optimized with good topology flow, good texture density. And he kind of applied that to another character he did, which was this Blood Elf. And you can see here from the topology that it's a really clean, optimized mesh, nicely finished textures, all rigged and posed, ready to go into game. And that's the key important thing that we try and push, is that it has to be game ready. We have other students like Connor, who wanted to focus his characters on likeness. So how do you make a character look like a real person? So this is Theon Greyjoy from Game of Thrones. But not only how does it look like the character, but can you then stylize it but still keep that likeness? So he wanted to give it sort of a dishonored sort of characterization, but still keep the likeness present. So this was a really nice challenge that he'd set himself to actually achieve that. And at the same time, he's building other characters for his portfolio that demonstrate other skill sets. So this is making sure that you can showcase some stylization, some stylized characters. So this steampunk bunny sort of character that he did. Now we can go and look at some of Kyle's work. So Kyle, as we said, he won the first prize for the Game Republic award, but his challenge for this one was actually quite interesting. He wanted to do stylization. He wanted to say, can I take an anime style character and can I translate it into a 3D Pixar style character? And I think he did a really good job here of that translation, and actually the readability of the personality of that character really comes through in the final thing. And then he also took that knowledge, that expertise, and he applied it to some others. So this is sort of a character that comes from a D&D type of podcast, but again, you can see the materials, the textures, the form and shape of the characters are all coming through. That underlying theory is really part and parcel of that development process. Then we've got someone like Reese, who's more of our techie person, so he would be someone that would be on the production course, and so he wants to be a VFX artist. So you can see he's building this projectile attack that would fit into sort of a League of Legends style game, and he's not only understanding how it looks and the readability of of the effects, so the color theory, the shape dynamics, the movement. But he's also looking at whether it's optimized or not. So when you see the split 4 screen shot in a second, that's making sure that it's optimized, so you can have hundreds of these particle effects all going off at the same time, and it's not going to have too many draw calls going on. Then we move on to someone like Sam. So Sam, he built this environment, and it's a really nice environment with lots of little nooks and crannies and little rooms that go off to the side, and it's very much a cyberpunk style type of neon environment. But actually what Sam really enjoyed was props and getting story and detail into an object. So building either guns or helmets, or in the previous scene there was a dishwasher, a washing machine that he spent a long time on, making sure that it read right, that the characteristics of the use was being put into place. But like this pistol on the bottom right, for instance, when you start looking closely, it's actually a pistol that's been manufactured by a fictional Japanese company, and so it's got things like in the pattern of the grip, it's got the rising sun sort of to influence that sort of process. It's got some markings and characteristics that come from that background research into storytelling. So Sam spent a long time on prop design and getting that readability to come through. Then we've got someone like Joe Taylor, who's just graduated this year, who wanted to focus on environments, but in particular lighting and textures. And you can see here a couple of the examples of the pieces he made this year. So in the bottom right, you can see how an environment can actually be completely different depending how it's lit, what time of day, and the mood and readability changes, to looking at textures and how those textures interact with light. And are they part and parcel of the readability of the scene? So he did a couple of different pieces this year. One of them was this. So he did a couple of pieces. This one, which was based off sort of God of War, the remake, sort of looking at materials that it can react to, dynamic materials. So snow that sits on the top of these steps, and this stone, so it's the snow's only going to build upon one particular surface as opposed to everything. And you can see here he's done a great job of sort of getting that staircase, that stone, to look like stone and react in the right way. He also worked on another piece in his final year, which was this one, which was based off Last of Us. And again, he wanted to focus on lighting, drawing your attention to particular things, and not only that, but materials and optimization. So you can see in the bottom left of the screen, the pieces that make up this scene are quite limited. There's only a small handful of pieces, yet this is a vast environment, and this is what you need to do when building environments. Is you have to build these beautiful locations, but make sure that they're optimized for gains. And Joe is demonstrating his expertise in that. So drawing your focus with that light shaft to the center of the room, has that light plays off the leaves, the ivy, and draws your attention around the scene. So Joe is another example of one of our students that is demonstrating part of all of that. So that was just a small sample of our students. I really advise, we've got a YouTube channel at youtube.com/HUDUNIGAMES that you can go look at some more of our students' work, and we'll post links to their art stations and their portfolios. But if you've got any questions, I've seen that there's some questions have been coming in the chat. But if after this session is over you still think you've got a couple more questions, you can always contact our marketing and recruitment team, either via the telephone number there or the email address, or you can still find some information at Course Finder, so hud.ac.uk/courses, and look for game development. We also have our HUD games team social media. So like I said, we have a YouTube channel, which I'll show you in a second. We also have a Twitch live stream that we do every Wednesday at 3 p.m. and we talk about lots of different things, from showing student work off to last week we were talking about how to write a dissertation, sort of advice for our students to be thinking about. We have an Instagram that we try and show work off, especially during the summer, once we can sit down and actually post some more work on there. And we have a blog at HUDUNIGAMES.co.uk that Duke runs. So there's lots of information there that you can actually go and have a look at. The YouTube channel here, so again, HUDUNIGAMES, there's a whole host of different videos that might be of use to some of you, especially looking at the course. So we've done some videos on the different modules that we do and sort of delving into them. We've got some videos looking at some of the games that they made during the game jams. We've got videos showcasing the awards. So there's a whole host of different videos that might be worthwhile going to have a look at for some of you. We also have this little PDF that hopefully Duke's will have posted the link into the chat. So if you missed any of the links there to some of our student work, or to the social media, or even to the telephone number and email address of our marketing and recruitment team, you can just follow that link and save that down so you can have access to those at any point. So make sure you follow